Hey everybody, thanks for coming along on another Northwoods Ramble. I'm Seeley Dave, your hyperborean reporter, and this is show number 11. Sorry for the long delay, it's been about a month since show 10, but hey, it's better than the 2 months between 9 and 10, right? So I'm happy to report that my co-conspirator TJ is back with me once again after this brief introduction that I'm going to do now with a hyperborean report on trail conditions. So TJ, he's going to have a little bit more time to join us now since he left. He quit working for the ABSF, the American Birkie Ski Foundation. He worked there for about 10 years doing everything from grooming to, course marking for events to snowmaking, and he did programming for kids, and he cut trees down. He did a lot, but spent a lot of time grooming and making snow. So later in the show, in his segment, I asked him a bunch of questions about how the Birkie makes man-made snow on their Nordic loops, how they might be able to expand that to their 10K that they're hoping to have for the race, and how they move it around and how that all works. It's really interesting. It's very labor intensive. TJ breaks it all down for us, so stick around for that. In the meantime, I'll give you a quick update on conditions up here in this winter that isn't, or winter that wasn't, depending on your perspective on is it already over. It might be. So we're coming to you, though, once again from my little log cabin office. I am still located at the base of the Hollywood Hills, and this is now, it's kind of being also known as, my office here is now maybe getting a new name in terms of we just upgraded our seating here, and I've got these very cool Manitou suspension bar stools that I got from the good folks at Hayes, and they're bouncy. I might need a little bit of air in mine. I think I either gained some weight and I've got a little bit too much sag in mine. I got to get back to 20% sag, right? But anyway, so maybe we'll start calling this the Manitou Suspension Lounge instead of my little log cabin office. But so thanks to the Todd Summers and the folks at Hayes for providing us with these super awesome bar stools that are made with Manitou forks and pro taper handlebars and stems. It's all Wisconsin made stuff. It's super cool, and we'll try to bring these things out to some of the events so people get to sit on them, and maybe we'll do some live podcast episodes out with some interviews with folks after events with these stools. So look forward to seeing those, and you can join us in the Manitou Suspension Lounge. But anyway, so we're still here at the base of the Hollywood Hills. I am outside downtown Seeley, Wisconsin, which is normally a bustling little intersection and the home to the very busy Sawmill Saloon in the winter. Right now, though, with the weird El Nino year with no snow and 45-degree temperatures, and it's actually kind of drizzling outside right now, raining a little bit. The snowmobile trails have not been able to be opened. Most of the ski trails have not been opened or groomed outside of the man-made stuff at the Birkie Start area. It's been a super weird winter, another winter of extremes. Last winter we had a La Nina winter in which we had 100 inches of snow, like double what we normally get, and we had that same thing the year before. So it seems like we're now, with the whole climate change thing, we're stuck in these cycles of extremes, and I sort of wish, I love winter. I just wish we could go back to like a little bit more normal, although I liked lots of snow last year. 10 feet was a little much, and the constant shoveling of roofs and things like that, and the constant plowing that was involved. I don't miss that, but I really do miss being able to ski and fat biking on groomed fat bike trails where you've got this sort of cool ribbon of rideable trail through what would otherwise be an unrideable forest. Instead, what we've got, if you're a fat biker, come on up, because you can ride everywhere in the forest right now. All the trails, check the Canada trail conditions, because if it's too warm, you might not be able to ride. But for right now, for the most part, every morning everything's still frozen, hard, and everything's rideable. So we've got 130 miles of Canada trails that are mostly open. We've got all the hundreds and hundreds of endless miles of gravel roads and snowmobile trails and ATV trails that are virtually empty because nobody's up here right now. And you can get room cheap anywhere, and you can get into any restaurant and be served relatively quickly. And that does remind me, because you should come up and visit, and if you do, you definitely do want to stop at that Sawmill Saloon, where all their food is delicious, and they also make these absolutely wonderful old fashions that are, it doesn't matter how you like yours, if you like yours with whiskey or brandy, sweet, pressed, sour, perfect. They're all absolutely delicious, but they're all finished with just a few dashes of regret. And in this winter, I think most people are asking for a few extra dashes of regret to help drown their sorrows, because businesses are hurting right now. So if you can come on up, please do, because we would appreciate the business. Anyway, so in order to make a little bit of lemonade out of lemons, I have set some goals about ice riding and things like that this year. I have managed, the ice has not been consistent, so it's been a little worrisome every time I go out on it. I have been riding with ice spikes, the emergency ice spikes, to help you get out if you fall in. You use them to pull yourself out of the ice, and inflatable PFD usually when I go. I just recently went up to just the conditions got to be good for riding on the Chequamegon Bay, and so Tom Schuler and I, my buddy Tom Schuler and I, went up there and we rode around for an hour or so. This is right off of Bono Creek, not far off of Bono Creek in the Chequamegon Bay, just south of Washburn. And they call this rock now, I don't know if it has an official name, but they call it Dragon Head Rock, I think, because for the Book Across the Bay ski and running snowshoe race, they set up their giant dragon right near here that blows flame in the middle of the night. It's very cool. If you haven't been on that course, done that Book Across the Bay event, you should. It's really, really cool. The giant snow dragon that blows huge fire into the sky is absolutely amazing. I should have pulled up a picture of that, but I didn't. I forgot. Sorry. I could have done that. But yeah, so Tom and I went out and we rode around. The ice was candling, so it was not super safe, but it was thick. So, but when ice candles, which is when it's sort of like it sort of like starts melting in between the crystals of the flakes and stuff, and it's not as strong, even though it may be 7 inches thick or 9 inches thick. It's only as strong as like it maybe would be if it's 3 inches thick. It's much more brittle and breakable and stuff. So we managed to get a ride in while it was still safe. It was kind of cool and foggy out that day, and so we got a ride in. It was a little nerve-wracking. I did go in once. I fell in, got wet once, riding over a pressure ridge right behind Tom, and I followed right in his tracks, and he rode over it, and my entire front wheel fell right in, so into a gap about 3-4 feet wide. I luckily went over the handlebars, and landed on the other side. One leg fell in the water, so I got one leg soaker, but it wasn't too bad. Could have been worse, and my bike was easy to pull out of there. But so yeah, that's been a little sketchy. I have managed to do a bunch of other fun rides on the gravel roads. This is out. I rode out to ride out by Mineral Lake, which feeds the Brunsweiler River, and I managed to ride around Mineral Lake. That was the lake that I rode around and made that video last time of me riding on a lake with the drone video of that. And so I managed to circumnavigate Mineral Lake, and then I rode around up by that Marengo area just north of Clam Lake. I really love that area. Pine Stump Corner is right up there. I love that little intersection. And Camp No Deer, I always like going by Camp No Deer. Isn't that every deer camp? Camp No Deer. And then I did get back and I've tried several times to circumnavigate Lake Owen, like maybe 5 times. I managed to get the north end done early in the year. And then I've been trying to do the entire thing though. And it's just been weird. The conditions have been varying anywhere from like entire bays that were wide open, like Agnes Bay, wide open, to the narrows are not frozen. So you can't get through the narrows, which is what stopped me this last time. So all the rest of the lake, you can see I managed to make about 13 miles around all the southern end. I went in off Mitros Landing and rode all around it. But I got to the far northern narrows and they were open water and I couldn't get through there to ride around the northern end. So I guess this will have to wait till next year unless we get a cold snap that is actually maybe forecast to be coming in. So maybe that cold snap will allow us to me to get back to Lake Owen and circumnavigate that. I did get out to the island where there's a campground on that big island on Lake Owen. So I've thought about doing a winter camping trip. I thought it'd be kind of fun to ride around Lake Owen and then camp on that island at the National Forest campgrounds on that island. I think there's actually 2 spots for it. This is my circumnavigation loop around Lake Helene. I rode out the gravel snowmobile trails and gravel roads out to Lake Helene and got there, and I was happy to find that the lake was frozen nicely, and so I rode all around that and went out to the island on that. So that was cool. So I managed to get that done, and then so again, I've been having fun on my fat bike, just trying to make up other adventures, which is sort of what this podcast is sort of all about, just making up accessible, fun adventures, making fun with what you've got in your area. And so come on up because, we do have some pretty cool things in the area. The elk over. This was on my trip up by Mineral Lake. This is actually by Ghost Lake. I saw this guy with harem and a couple of youngins, and they are not skittish. They do not run across the road at your car like a deer. This guy just sort of refused to get out of the road. This guy here, he was very cautious. The guy in the pickup truck went very slow and stopped, and I think he did a couple of selfies with this elk. So anyway, yeah. So it's been a weird winter. It's been an unfortunate winter. It isn't something that we like to see in terms of the local economy. I've heard the northern counties are down about $6.5 million. So please come up, leave some money behind, have an old fashioned or two, tip well. It will really be appreciated. And with that, I think I'll leave you and we'll jump into my talk with TJ where we get around Birkie Trail and Camba Trails and look at some of the conditions. And he gives you a really good insight on how snow is made up here and how much effort goes into even putting together a 4 or 10 kilometer loop. So anyway, stick around for that. And again, thanks for coming along on the ramble. Seeley Dave, joining you with TJ in just a minute. Welcome back. TJ is with me here once again.
How's it going?
It's been, I think, a month since I last published, and it was 2 months before, between 9 and 10.
We're doing better. Well, there's not much going on, right?
Yeah, that's kind of like what I think I'm going to talk about in the intro after we do this, how, like, just the weird winter, the lack of snow, the businesses are all hurting, everybody's hurting. But I thought, with your level of expertise, having worked at the Birkie for how long? How long did you work?
Yeah, I started in 2016, so about 10 years.
Okay,
roughly.
So with that, you don't work there anymore.
Nope.
We don't have to. You can say whatever you want.
No, it's all good.
We're not here.
I was just in the office this morning.
Yeah,
so
right. I know the Birkie's going to make their announcement on like the 12th or something like that,
I think
right?
That's right.
So we don't, even if you know more, we don't have to give away any secrets. But I just thought a lot of people don't really understand the whole, process. And actually, you and I did go walk around, so we could.
Yeah, and then one thing, I don't think that there really are any secrets. I think
they don't know it. Nothing has been decided yet.
No one knows until this weather comes in on Thursday, and then the temperatures after that. And,
right. Forecast looks like it's going to be cold enough to make snow. They've already made a big pile of it. We went out the other day. I went out with a drone with Liz, and so I'm going to switch us over. If you're watching this on video, I'm going to switch us over to the computer screen where I've got. I went out with the drone and looked at the 2 huge piles of snow that the Birkie has already banked.
Right.
They call them whales. I don't know why they call them whales. I mean, it is a swale. It's a swale, but I don't know why it's called a whale. But so if you're watching this on the YouTube or on Spotify video, I threw a drone up by the first one, and it's a pretty impressive pile.
It is. Yeah, it's kind of cool. When we walked out there, you didn't get a good... you got a sense that it was big, but not the drone footage, really. Like, wow, there's a lot of snow.
Yeah, that's why I redid it, because when we were out there with just a little Insta360 camera, you couldn't really get a good idea of the scale of these. And so there's 2 piles. One is over by Telehenge, and then the other one is kind of at the bottom of the bowl. Is that how you describe it? So, and at the base of the hill. So, oops, I keep doing that. We'll just let it play again. But so you also talked to somebody that's an engineer who kind of did the math. You and I were trying to figure out how big these things were and how wide of a ski trail they make. And
so I've heard of, but I mean,
who was that you were talking to? That's the engineering guy who
Dave,
sort of did the math on this?
Yeah, Dave did the math on that. But then, I've talked to a couple guys who worked for the Birkie, and it just depends, right? Like how the snow, the pace they can move it. There's so many unknowns, right? Like no one's done this. This is a huge operation.
Well, they have some experience because they moved the snow to downtown Hayward.
Yeah, that's a little different
Your
because
mic is going down here.
Cool.
Let me just get it back.
Yeah, it's a little different because they just. I mean, yeah, I think they do.
It's flat.
It's flat.
It's not like they have to. You can drive a dump truck down Main Street. And,
it's paved.
Right. Whereas the Birkie Trail is you got to drive a dump truck out on the trail somehow.
Right, and hopefully it'll be cold enough that it's like pavement. But yeah, it'll be interesting.
So they made these 2 piles of snow. Right now, the Birkie has, it sounds like, about a 4K man-made loop.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So, like I watched that thing with Christy and Ben, that live YouTube live thing, and they said that one of their options is they'll have a 10K man-made loop.
Right.
And so that means they've got this snow they mentioned that they can take, that their plan would be to help spread this out to the rest of that. And they're leaving it in a pile because it's instead of spreading it out now ahead of time, this saves the snow more, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think that's what the idea is. It'll preserve the snow in a bigger pile before we get this rain. I don't know how long it's going to take to move the pile. I think it depends on how many operators they have, and they're going to have excavators. They're going to have snowcats. They're going to have a lot of dump trucks.
Right. So right now, is that all the Birkie can, like, when they make snow, they have a 4K man-made loop.
Yep.
That you pay a little extra for your Birkie pass and you can ski on that. So even when the rest of the trail isn't good early season or late season, that's usually good to ski on.
Yep.
Which is cool. And Liz and I have both bought those passes to ski. But I got the feeling like with the whole climate change issue and stuff, the Birkie's aware of that. They've had climatologists give them forecasts. So their goal is to be able to make snow on a bigger loop,
yeah.
right?
I mean, like it started out with 2 small wells with 2 fan guns, and it was making snow right at the start.
Okay.
And those pumps were, those wells, they weren't really even pumps. We had an external pump. Those wells did okay, but they can't make a ton of snow. So then,
just because they can only pump so much water.
Yeah, there's only so much water in those wells. Water is actually kind of hard to get at Telemark.
So they're pretty deep wells.
Yeah, so like the joke that we would always say is like, well, if Shelly down the road calls and can't take a shower, turn the guns off. I mean, it's been like a big experiment, and then, with the purchasing then
It's
of
kind of
telemark.
because the river runs right by there, so you'd think
You would
there'd be water.
There's like
the water
rock
table would
under
be right
there, and it's, I don't know. I'm not a hydrologist,
Right, neither
but
am I.
yeah, and so then they put on, then the next thing was putting on the pump house that was the pump house for the Telemark Lodge.
Okay.
And that's a good pump and a good well, and
Because that was
water.
a 200 room hotel.
Yeah,
so.
and so then that's when we ran all the PVC pipe above ground, just to see if it'd work. And it has worked pretty good.
For the 4K loop.
For the 4K loop. And then, the biggest thing with snowmaking is temperature, and humidity. And it's just not been good.
Right.
But these two giant piles were made when it was really cold. So, and they're using fan guns. So fan guns like to really run when it's wide open and make these big piles. They're really good. And they're these.
So, a lot of people might not, I guess, understand this, and I didn't even think I did until this year when I started digging into this. But you have this sort of idea of the Birkie can make snow on a 4K loop. So I had this they got guns all over the place. It's like water in your lawn. They spray the snows out, and then they run the groomer over it, the piston bully over it, and set tracks and comb it out, and it's good. But
that's not it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you have to have, the big thing is, we have water plumbed all over the place.
Right.
There's only so many breaks in that you can actually hook up to water.
Right.
And then there's electricity.
All right.
And electricity, you have to run 150 feet of cord to the electric PEDs. So there's 150 feet, 200 feet of hose, and you can only move it that far.
Okay.
And then you can't bury that stuff.
Right.
So that's why they call them whales, because it's usually just one big hump you're making overnight. Then you come in and you push that
with the blade on the
cat
piston bully.
Yep. Yeah, a cat will come and push it, and that's why they're running. The 3 Alpine cats are running. All the blades. I think this is right. I've only been gone for a little bit, but they're all park blades, so you can really maneuver the snow exactly.
Okay.
And it's a lot of work, and because of the water the way it is. It's all above ground, so anytime the temperature gets above really 28 degrees, you have to shut that system down.
Sure.
So you have to flush all of the plumbing. Every bit of plumbing has to be flushed with an air compressor, which is so that the startup shutdown period.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
And then, given they've had this fear because the climatologists have come out and given consultations, say there may be more years like this in the future where you don't have good snow, and they want to be able to hold an event every year. So they determined, it sounded like a 10K loop is what would allow them to basically run a Birkie maybe over multiple days, over a week instead of one day mass start, but they would work that out. So are there plans, or is there a goal to have more pumps or more wells or more line out around a whole 10K course, so they don't have to make these 2 big piles and use dump trucks to haul it?
Right.
They can do what they do on the 4K. Is there plans to have a 10K loop that understanding they still always have to push it?
Right. Yeah.
But they make the piles more on the trail.
Yeah, and I think that. And I'm not sure exactly what the plans are. I wasn't privy to that. But I think that the idea is to put underground pipe in, and then probably run sticks as opposed to fan guns. So a stick is a different way to make snow. And then they're movable, and you just move them, and you can get more production out of stick in an enclosed space.
In a narrower
and then probably use the fan guns for operations like this, or in the stadiums. You can make a ton of snow in these big piles, but it's all expensive, right? And I think this is a good year for them, because even though there's we're talking about how bad the weather is and no one's people are still been able to ski since Thanksgiving with a few exceptions.
I've heard we've had renters, a few of them. Our business is down by 50 to 3/4% in terms of renters coming up to ski because of the weather. But everybody that did come up was super happy that they're able to ski somewhere.
Right.
Because there hasn't been good snow hardly anywhere.
Right.
So in the Midwest anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be, I guess, a future expansion of the snowmaking,
right,
the man-made snowmaking loop.
Right. And there's, on the other side of what we're looking at right there, there's another pump now, more water. So yeah, I think they're always going to be expanding that. I don't think there's any reason to slow down on the snowmaking. The system, I will say the system that is there right now was kind of like a test, but it's worked really well. I mean, it's just, no matter what system you go with that I've looked at, other places, alpine places, it's still super labor intensive.
Sure.
And it's wet, and it's cold.
And one of the other options that was mentioned, as there were like 3 options, I think, that Christy and Ben mentioned in that. One was the 10K man-made loop, and then the other one was possibly skiing to like Bodecker or Double O Trailhead or something like that. And with the weather and no snow miracle on the horizon, you and I went out, we took a look at Bodecker Trailhead. I'm going to jump, let's see. Oops, that's you.
Sweet.
That's, maybe, let me jump out here. I'm going to go back to us and see if I can. Oh, here we are. Here's us at Bodecker. All right, so I'm going to put us back and picture in a picture here. And this is right at...
Yeah, and this was last week, so it's probably...
It's worse.
It's worse.
In terms of, like, there's less snow on the ground than so anybody that's watching this on YouTube or the Spotify video can see there's all kinds of... We're at the Bodecker Trailhead here, right by the warming hut, and there's all kinds of bare spots on the grass, on the trail.
Yeah.
And anytime you get any bare spot and you have any sunny weather at all, those bare spots spread. So,
and if it rains, they're all going to have little pockets to hang out in and start. Yeah.
And then, so basically, I mean, although you and I were saying, you and I we'd go ski there. I'd go do an adventure ski there. I wouldn't mind, but the Birkie could not hold a race on this.
No.
It's just not the kind of snow that you could race.
Yeah, because there's probably like a line or two that you could take through all that stuff right now. But, when you're 6 wide...
And there might be spots, this is Bodecker, but there might be a gap somewhere in there where it's out in the sun on the sunny side of a hill and there's no snow at all for like 200 yards
and
somewhere on the
trail. And there could even be... low spots where there's right now puddles.
Right.
And that stuff freezes.
Right. And you can't send people down a hill and hit a skating rink at the bottom.
And that without enough snow, you can't, it'd be hard to renovate all that ice with a cat.
Right. So unfortunately, that option, like I said, Ben and Christy said, there were 3 options. We run down to Double O and back. We do a 10K loop, or worst case scenario, there is no ski race.
Right.
It doesn't appear like that third option is going to be. It appears that looking at the weather that they're going to be able to make enough snow and push it around enough to put together some sort of course out there for people to ski on.
Yeah, even though I don't work for them, I'm pretty sure those guys will come up with some type of course. And
right.
I think this is one of those winters where you're just happy to be hanging out on snow with some people. And
fortunately, if people do need to change their ski plans because I've only got a hotel for that weekend because I was planning on just skiing on, the normal open start day. And if they have to spread skiers out over the whole week, fortunately, a lot of places like ours and the Sawmill and all these places are empty.
Right. Yeah. No.
So people would not have too much trouble finding places to stay. I don't think.
No. I think
if they have to change their travel plans and find lodging.
Yeah.
they should be able to.
You know, what was it? 2017 was the last time it was.
Yeah.
And that was a different. We were like shoveling snow into otter sleds on the, you know, trying to fill in spots, and it was but the people who came and skied around, like the vibe was great.
Cool.
Because people were like, that whole like, oh, I'm getting ready for my big race. Oh my, you know, I gotta get in this way. That was all gone.
That's all over.
So people were like, well, I'm gonna go hang out on the snow, ski a little bit, have a few beers, go to town, get a pizza, whatever.
Right.
And it was like like, you know, we were like, oh, this is so dire, but it was like people were having a blast.
Had fun anyway. Yeah.
And it was and the one thing the Birkie's really good at is putting on really cool events and bringing that and
right.
Because for so many people, it's like the time they get to hang out with friends they don't get to see all year.
Right.
It's a big deal for the volunteers. I mean, volunteers for this event are almost as important as the skiers. Some people come here to volunteer.
Yeah.
And they, you know.
But that might, if they do have to try to spread if there's like, you know, Liz does a start gate for the Cordy. Like, so she does it on the race day. She doesn't plan on doing it 5 days in a row.
No, for sure.
I mean, I'm sure she'd be able to help out more, but I don't know if she's going to. So finding extra volunteers to spread the event out over the week is probably really tough.
Yeah,
as well.
And I think they've learned that lesson too pretty hard on the COVID year.
Yeah.
When it was like multiple days. And I mean, I was like,
I guess,
race grooming every night was like,
woo. Well, that was another question that I had for you. Like, so can they make snow if it's cold enough during the week, the race week, the week that they're actually holding a course, the races? They spread it out from Monday to Sunday. You can, it's kind of like open track instead of the mass start. Can they make snow each night and groom it, or do they have to choose one or the other, or just?
Yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't think there'd be time.
You know, it'd be tough. I don't know. You could definitely, if there were thin patches, like you could fix those. You could like.
But you couldn't resurface. You couldn't make enough snow to push it all around a 10K course and groom it each night after they're done skiing. So everybody had brand new, fresh, man-made snow with a groomer.
Yeah, and I don't even, depending on the weather, right? Depending on the temperature, I don't even know if you'd want, I mean, sometimes that'd be good and sometimes it'd be bad. Okay. It seems like that, in that man-made snow, this is, I don't know, it's really durable, like more durable than natural snow. But I think you would rather have a big base, even if that base goes to boilerplate. There's enough cats that they'll go around enough to break it all up. So it should be good grooming every night. Especially if it's cold enough during the week, I think it'd be just fine.
Just groom it. They would just groom it. And maybe make snow to fix any spots that needed some new snow.
And I think that'd be like the next 2 weeks, so that'd be like the fixing of it. And then race week would be...
They'd have to just maintain it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other thing is like staffing, right? I don't know if they have enough staffing to run all that operation.
Right. Yeah, right. So then the next video that I'm throwing up is you and I went down to check out, just walk up Janet Road, Seeley Pass Trail. Because if you're actually listening to this because you're a fat biker, it's actually been a great winter for fat biking up there. We've essentially, I was saying this before when we were walking around, essentially have had 130 miles of fat bike trails this winter because all the Canada trails were basically rideable.
And no one's riding snowmobiles.
Right. And so, nobody's up here for the snowmobiles because their trails have not had enough snow to be open. So all those gravel roads and stuff that are snowy but not enough for snowmobiles to run on and stuff. And their marshes aren't necessarily frozen enough for them to have got their trails open. It's like that time in the spring when the road bans are on and they close the trails to snowmobiles and they're not open to ATVs yet. We've essentially had a winter where fat bikes can go anywhere. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So we went and looked at in the video here, we went and walked up Janet Road. Now we're walking on Trail 77 in this video, which is the ATV snowmobile trail that dead ends into Janet Road, just down where Seeley Pass pops out at Janet Road and crosses. And that cuts across the Birkie Trail. We walked up that, look at the Birkie Trail. That cuts all the way across over 77, cuts across the Birkie Trails over to Telemark Road and pops out on Telemark Road and crosses Telemark Road and heads toward Lake Helene. And I rode that whole Trail 77 all the way to Lake Helene and then rode around Lake Helene, and it was great.
Right.
And then now here we're walking up Seeley Pass, which they did groom. Campbell groomed that because we did have enough snow to groom for a little while. And it's
rideable.
Yeah, pretty good condition. Early morning, everything's pretty icy because it's below freezing still, so the gravel roads and the trails, I think, are a little icy. I ride studded tires. I'm running studded tires on. I actually put my studded tires back on my 29er hardtail, my Milwaukee 29er hardtail, because I don't need a fat bike to go most places anymore. It's like that weird season like we're talking about where the gravel roads are icy, but there's not enough snow that you need fat bikes. So I just put studded tires on, and you could ride but if you wanted to wait until afternoon when it isn't as icy, when the snow's melted more, you don't need studded tires.
Well, and then I know tons of snow's melted in the last 3-4 days. If it rains and melts again, and then we get that cold spell,
it might be gravel. And
it might
really
be great.
Fast. Yeah.
It might be really good coming up, even for like mountain biking.
Right. Yeah. Regular mountain biking. Yeah. And people should. So I'm going to cut this off here. I think we've seen enough of that. But put us back on camera. But people should obviously check Canva trail conditions. Because there is still freeze-thaw issues, and they may have trails closed. Right. But you're right. If the it looks like the temperatures are going to drop, and then if we have most of the snow gone everywhere, but temperatures in like the 20s, you can ride
single digits at night. It could be like
you can ride everywhere, and it's all firm and fast for regular mountain biking. It'll be great up here for that. Gravel bikes, as well. So
it's kind of been like, that's one thing about this winter, even though it's been horrible, it's been interesting because you had to put your thinking cap on and like get creative on what you're doing outdoors and
that's
which has been kind of fun.
It has been. I mean, so one of my things, and I think I'll mention this a little bit more in the intro too, is one of my things has been to try to we had that early ice the lakes froze over. We didn't have snow, so the lakes were looking like they were all really rideable, but then the temperatures warmed and none of the lakes were consistent, and I wanted to circumnavigate a bunch of lakes. I just tried Lake Owen again, and I'm gonna put this up. It's just that's my track from my ride the other day on Lake Owen. So I put in at Metro's Landing down on the south end. I managed to ride all the way around the whole lake, but the northern narrows were open water. Only a little bit. Like I probably could have got up on land, walked on somebody's private property and got around the open spot and rode the north end. But my whole goal was to try to circumnavigate it. So that would have been cheating. So I didn't. And I also could not get into Otter Bay because the narrow into Otter Bay was also open water, but everything else looked like 5 to 9 inches of ice everywhere, and all that snow that was on top of it that had got slushy in the warm weather and stuff like that has now melted down. So it's all frozen solid surface. It's really great fast riding conditions. Obviously it's still ice. You're never safe. So I ride with my ice picks and inflatable PFD and stuff like that. And a throw rope. I'm cautious about it, but yeah. So that's been my sort of creative thing to try to do something different and fun this winter because the normal groomed fat bike trails haven't really been the same. But I ran into Pete Karen. I was riding just below Eagle Knob, And all of a sudden I heard, hey Dave, hey Dave. There's nobody on the lake but me. And then I was like, oh, I looked way up the hill and Pete was working on Eagle Knob up there. So, but he said he had skated on the north end, and it looked like when I was at those narrows that was all frozen too. I just couldn't quite get across it, you know. So, but it's been fun. You know, it's been something fun to do. And then I've been getting out and trying to ride most days just because all the gravel roads are so great and the trails and stuff, and the snowmobile trails are empty and the ATV trails are all rideable. So I've been trying to get out and ride just, you know, because it's easy to do right now.
Right. It's funny because, we've been snowboarding a bunch, like around, like we were at Scott's house and now the snow's gone. But yeah, all these resorts we're going to are empty. Like
really, but you said Trollhagen had really good snow.
No,
and Buck Hill had really good snow.
They're all making good snow and they all have like pretty good grooming. There's been a couple.
People aren't coming up.
But people, I think it's when there's not. Everybody's just kind of either waiting for winter to happen still, or
maybe when they know there's not snow up here in the woods, in the forest, it sort of shuts their brain off.
For sure.
Even though these ski hills are good at making snow and they can make it, it's just the locals are just the ones skiing on their Buck Hill. Nobody's driving up.
Or no one's going out their front door, and they might not be a skier or a snowboarder, and they're not going like, "Oh, it's wintertime. Let's go try this out."
Right.
So like most of the people we've been seeing at the resorts are like they're going to ride. They have season tickets. They have a pass, whatever that is. Yeah.
It is a weird thing, and ice fishing's been hard too because the lakes are frozen real inconsistently. But I keep seeing all these resorts on like flowages and stuff saying, "Hey, we've still got 9 inches of ice."
Right. Everybody's
they want to bring people up, but people just are not coming up. The parking lot at the sawmill last winter, it was rare that there weren't 20 snowmobiles or more parked in it.
Right. I was there last night at 7:30.
It was probably
it was me and the guy I was with. That was it.
Right. So everybody's hurting up north.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'd like to you'd think that with the mountain bike trails that the Birkie's building, with gravel riding and with bike packing and stuff like that, hopefully we can build up a little bit more of, you know, these sort of alternative uses of the woods and get more people coming up because the economy sure needs it. I heard Minocqua area Chamber of Commerce was on the news, and they said they estimated like $6.5 million shortfall in the counties up in the northern Wisconsin. So I believe it.
I mean, the other thing is that's nice. Just roaming around the woods right now is fantastic.
Right.
There's not like knee-high snow.
Right.
There's no bugs, even though I heard somebody got the first tick.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking it's going to be
It is. It's going to be but...
Yeah, if it's 40 degrees out, you probably do have to worry about ticks. But it's great weather. You can be out and enjoy the woods. I'd encourage people to come out. Bring your mountain bike, bring your fat bike. Just come up and hike. Go ice fishing still. That's still going on. So, and then we'll see what happens with the Birkie. We'll get to find out very soon, February 12th.
Yeah, and then I think that I think those guys will do something cool.
Yeah, it'll be a fun party.
That's
either
what
way.
they're good at, right?
Yeah.
Putting on a cool event. So,
yeah. You know, and I've thought about it in terms of like the Tour de France has 2 different 100-year anniversaries, because there's the first year they started it, but then they didn't run it during like World War II.
Right.
And then there's like, so they have like 2 different 100 anniversaries. So maybe we'll have another 50th anniversary next year.
I think
that'd be fun.
I will say that. I think that and I know everybody feels the same, it's not really going to be the 50th until somebody is going across Main Street.
Maybe they could do a 50th not next year, but the year after. because 2017 wasn't really.
Well, I think they did. I think they.
Oh,
I
and then
think
there's
they
COVID
did. I know.
too,
But I
right?
think that they have. I think they've adjusted.
They've already adjusted that.
Yeah,
So
I think
this
they have.
50th
It
was based
actually
on
the 50th time that
it's actual.
So if
full,
it doesn't happen,
then, or if it happens in a way
weird
that
way,
they
yeah.
don't want to qualify as a regular
Yeah, I
race,
don't know.
maybe they could still do another. I'd do another 50th.
Yeah.
You can always have another party.
Yeah. The banner's already made. Just cross out the the number, the year, and put a different one in.
Right.
I'm sure that's not quite their style.
No,
but that's more of
well,
our
they
style.
They can afford
They
another
can, yeah,
banner.
that's right.
Another banner.
Yeah.
But
Yes, they can. Yeah.
well, I think that's all
Cool.
I've got. Thanks for coming. Glad.
Oh no, my pleasure.
Glad you
Yeah.
could make it to another one of these, and we're going to try to do this a little bit more regularly now that you've got a little bit more of a regular schedule.
Yeah. Oh, I got a new e-bike coming in the mail, so we'll talk about that.
Ooh, yeah. All right, we'll do that. Talk
Yeah.
about that next time.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Cool.
All right. Thanks for coming on another Northwoods Ramble, everybody. All right.
I was born a little too far south. Maybe we could stray off course for good in the Northwoods. In the Northwoods.